Good morning mga Beshwap at Kabayan. So happy Sunday, happy blessed Sunday. Ayun, blessings nga kasi umuulan. Ako po ay papunta ng Amsterdam Museum kasi may school activity po kami doon ngayon. Iniwan ko muna ang aking alaga. Maulan, my God. Ako ay nakadress kanina, kaso ay baka hindi ko kayanin yung lamig. Dahil mahangin, baka irayo yung sinay, kaya nagpantalo na lang ako. Yung suot ko kagabi, kahapon sa birthdayhan, yun na lang. Wala kasi akong ibang dalang mga gamit at damit din. Mamaya rin naman pauwi na ako. Dahil mamayang gabi pa dating na yung mga amo ko. Nakakaawa yung aso, ang lungkot. Lungkot-lungkot niya pag iniiwan siya. Kahit sila naman, iiwanan, nalulungkot, diba? Yung mga nangiiwan lang hindi nalulungkot. Charot. Okay, galakad mo ng mga besh. Wow, Diyos ko Lord. At ayun mga besh, nandito na ako sa Amsterdam Central. Aantayin ko na lang yung mga kasama ko. Dito daw kami sa may Grand Piano mag-aantayan. Dito yung meeting place namin. Hindi na ako nakapag-vlog sa train kasi ang daming tao, tayuan. Walang maupuan. So, hanapin ko yung piano dito. Ayun. Yung piano. Doon kasi yung meeting place ng 1:15 p.m. 12:55 pa lang. So, tingnan nyo ang Amsterdam. Welcome to Amsterdam, mga besh. Ayun o. Daming tao dito. Ooh. Ayan. So maaga po ako. Kailangan ko silang antayin. So mga besh po, pandito na kami sa metro. Sasakay kami ng metro papunta dun sa museum. Kasama ko ng mga classmate ko, tsaka yung facilitator namin, tsaka yung isang professor namin. So, ayun na ang aming metro. Asan po? Ang layo. So mga besh po, andito na kami mga classmates all over the world. Ayan na sila. Say hi to my vlog.
Hello.
Hello, Philippines.
Yes, hello Filipinos. How are you all? We love you, we love you, we love you all.
Maingay ka, di ba? So, ayan, nagbabayad na po sila mga Beshiwaps at iikot ko lang kayo. Ito yung mga classmate ko. Yan. This is the Amsterdam Museum. So, ayan, mag-start na po kami. Wow, ang laki.
Here on your free Sunday afternoon for what is hopefully going to be a very inspiring visit. This is a brand new exhibition. We have opened this in March of this year. We used to be at another location in Amsterdam. I think you all know where Dam Square is and Kalverstraat. That is where our usual location is. We used to be housed in, before it was yes, this is still about the past of Amsterdam. It's about the present and it's about the future. And we thought if we name it Historical Museum, people will only think of the past. So that is why we are Amsterdam Museum, which is sometimes a little bit confusing. People think, what is an Amsterdam Museum? But it's the museum about the city of Amsterdam. And you all live in Amsterdam?
No.
Amsterdam. Utrecht?
Almere.
Nijmegen, Almere.
Den Haag.
Den Haag. Okay.
Amsterdam. But work is some of you work in Amsterdam. People don't live in Amsterdam. They live in Amsterdam.
Almere.
So,
No.
but our previous location was historical building. Even though it was made into a museum, it was 50 years ago. The standards were different in terms of accessibility, wheelchairs, people with disabilities. But also, it was a little bit of a maze. People got lost, and you can attest to that. So, long story short, we are going to do a big renovation there, so it's going to be closed for some years. So it can be totally redone, and in the meantime, we are here. So we rent this wing from Hermitage. Put me on the top of the stairs.
Pasok na po tayo. Mag-start ng tour.
It's a living history of the city.
So we had this one room. So how to put the Amsterdam, the city of Amsterdam was in the 13th century. So it started with a settlement and a river, the river Amstel, and that is why it's called Amsterdam. It was first Amsterdam, and then it was by the people in power of who were governing the city. So it was a commission to make a beautiful painting of the city. And the interesting part is that the city is very, very small then. The canals are not yet here. So Prinsengracht, Herengracht, Keizergracht are not there yet. These are of a later date. Those are from the 17th century. So this is in the 16th century. It was only for the people who live here, the Wallen.
Okay.
So when the city was a mighty city, it was 30,000.
Nakita niyo ba yung mga, have you seen the numbers there? It's the years. This one is 1578. Yeah.
I think this exhibition to point out that we have so many ways to look at one.
And this is the old pictures of the elite of Amsterdam.
Yeah.
Are they the aristocrats?
In the 17th century, many paintings were also what I said in the beginning was civic chart. And so, for instance, this is the palace, which the palace was not built as a palace. And the palace at Dam Square was built as city hall. This is a building for measurement. This is where goods were weighed and traded.
But that's not there anymore.
No, no. The Waag is nu het Nieuwmarkt. And so in the Moroccan Empire, because we as Protestants we were also against Catholic Spain and Portugal. So they were our allies in that battle. So we had so you can see. So you could think and probably for a long time this painting is one of our really.
You can use that for.
Yeah. So the city is growing. All straight, people are attracted to it.
In the 1666.
You can see it on the painting. It's the same.
Oh.
And this, yeah. Manumisi was this. But so this is an artist's impression, but it's a real historical person. 19th century people of color who lived in the Netherlands, and she came here as a young woman. Looks like a bitch. Yes, she was very well off. Actually, and so we can have a look at the portrait later. So these are contemporary people, but dressed. I mean, the historical Elizabeth Samson could definitely have worn a dress like that. Yeah. No. To extract confessions. So to crack bones and it is in connection with our only painting. It's an anatomy lesson. In the 17th century, it was very. It was the first time that doctors.
Kasya sa'yo.
Yeah. Netherlands was occupied by France, by Napoleon, which was actually a very important part of our history because that is the constitution, standardization of measurements. But also it was a time when nation state building, national identity, and also like this romanticized idea of the nation and who we are as a people. And this is from Galerij de Vos. De Vos was someone who commissioned the whole series of paintings. Actually, the whole collection is 200. With all kinds of highlights from the Dutch history. So we have Michiel de Ruyter and Jan van Spijk, but a very romanticized, sanitized version. Very much. Yeah, you could. Yeah. So very much looking back in all and it was only the good things. Time when the statues were raised, because the statues were not immediately raised in the time that these people lived. Of women, of or even beginning of the emancipation of queer people. I think of for instance Sarah de Swart, the painting of a woman. She was openly lesbian. I mean.
Kung sino yung mayayaman sila yung nandyan. Ito yung yung parang tiles. That's the because this is 19th century na.
Was built, and if you say Amsterdam New West, people always say, oh, Van Eyck. But actually it was, so he's a guy. But actually there were... Yeah. But even it has a very special history. When Amsterdam was liberated during World War II in May, and the city was already liberated for a couple of days, so people were celebrating. You can see the video there.
Oh, yeah.
But a couple of German soldiers had hidden themselves in a building, and they began to shoot at the people. And because Dam Square had very little places to hide, so the organ was playing because it was a festive moment, and people were hiding behind this organ, and it saved some lives. So that is the story of 20th century.
Oh, yeah.
And in the 1980s, now we have housing crisis, but in the 1980s we also had a housing crisis. Yeah. And people were, exactly. And again, this is
Taba ng utak
this is called Metro Man. It's MD5. It's by Brian Elster. He's a contemporary artist of Surinamese background, and he wanted to honor the metro, the subway.
Yeah.
So subway 54. So this is his impression of riding on the subway. Who are riding it? So exactly, all these different people. And the longer you look, the more you see. Yeah, this is a graffiti collective.
Oh.
Those are graffitis. No, nee, it's the collective is called Kamsedo. That is the name of the graffiti collective. Oh, yes, so
Like art.
yeah, with
Can we touch or no?
no, the geometrical. So this is the design is by Studio LA. They have designed it, and because as a museum, you commission is to design things like this. And their idea was to keep some space open with geometrical forms. A designer of clothing who presented her new collection here, and then the models were positioned here. It's also a space that we can do something different. Yeah, so it's, yeah, exactly. So it can be used for different things.
And you can see everything from here. Oh.
The northern part of the city was, for a very long time, was a very poor neighborhood, working class. Sometimes not even considered part of Amsterdam because it was on the other side of the Ij. And but nowadays the city is so popular and everything is so expensive. So now it's very nice to live in North.
Yes.
So it's very gentrified. Yeah, a very rapid pace of gentrification. So people, these people, North side, they try to. Well, kind of counter. Yeah. And so we asked, what are places? So they designed this exhibition, and they focused on what they consider places of social cohesion. So if you want to see it, just come back another time. But we were just going to move it, but it seemed weird to just walk through it and acknowledge it. So it's just great. It's like a great deal of contact.
Ooh.
Ja, die ken ik wel. Amsterdam nuts. That's great. Nut. Nut. In English it's nut. In Netherlands it's nut.
I'm shook.
It's your object. Your object for the presentation. I have a question about it.
This is where I wanted to do you. Colonial stories.
It was good. Yeah.
Here we try, as a museum, try to reflect on ourselves, on our collection, on our storytelling, on the objects that we have, on the objects that we don't have, on the way we tell stories, the words that we use, so many things that need to be decolonized. So this is the first step, that is why it's called a work in progress. So I'm just going to quickly tell you, it's just this hallway, I'm going to just quickly tell you the idea of each room and then you can browse by yourself, okay?
All right.
So this is the introduction. We asked some very, well, most of them are well known. So this is Papa Black, he is an historian. Then we have Wayne Waters, he's director of Tropen Museum, Museum for World Cultures, etc. So these are people who, from their personal activism or expertise or studies, they reflect on the museum and the project of decolonizing the museum. So you can watch that. Here we try to reflect on our on the business as usual in the museum. These are all very treasured objects from our collection. This is a plantation in Suriname, plantation Waterland. This is a Godin. He's what is the name? The house where the mayor of Amsterdam is living. This is a residential house for the mayor. That was originally built by this guy, and he got rich with weapons trade, but also enormously rich with slave trade. So the house that our current mayor today lives in is built with money which was earned during the slave. And this guy was kind of responsible for that. So what we kind of try to do, also in the design, you see this is not kind of, normally we will not display it like this. It is the reason that the designer, this is a different designer than her name is Satari Nourani, so she's also a woman She wanted to, in this design, also question the status and the authority that you give these people by just hanging them in a museum with nice lighting and your ticket, and it gives an aura of, oh, this is yeah. So she wants to kind of question that by, yeah, exactly. And so these are like facts, figures, questions. But so you think, oh, these are all neutral and objective things, but facts, figures, and questions. You can have a conversation and debate. So this is about Asia, about colonization of in the East, and yeah, exactly. So what kind of things do we have in the collection? We actually don't have much in the collection of the Amsterdam Museum, which reflects colonial times. One of the things that we do have is this is called a Japanse rok. The Dutch were trading with Japan, and they were very much infatuated with the style of clothing. So in the painting, you can see the guy, he's dressed in what was called the Japanse rok. And at first it was, there's another telltale of colonialism in this painting. This is such handicraft. This is
Oh yeah.
that's beautiful. From a museum perspective, this is also a very interesting room. The Amsterdam Museum is the keeper of the collection. Heads of state or mayors meet each other, they exchange gifts. But the mayor of Amsterdam is not allowed to keep those gifts because that would facilitate corruption perhaps or whatever. So all the gifts that are given to the mayor of Amsterdam become part of the collection of the Amsterdam Museum. So what you see are all gifts. This was from the mayor of Jakarta. There was a twin city connection between Amsterdam and Jakarta. As you can see, the weapon of Amsterdam and the weapon of Jakarta. And so this piece was presented as a gift. And then it becomes part of the collection of the museum. And all what you see were gifts given to the mayor and then became part of our collection. But also, again, a matter of also people who were very much objecting to
Continuing the colonization.
Here we look at the origin of museums. Museums started in the 19th century, but before that, I mean, we have seen many examples of colonial trade, but also colonial plundering and colonial extortion and oppression. And that meant that a lot of goods were coming from the colonized parts of the world to the Netherlands. And these were really prized possessions, and those were kept in showcases. And then this is the origin of the museum. So you had all these shells and special thing, or perhaps feathers from exotic birds, and that was the origin of the museum. And so here we look back at how does museums look. And this is a work by an Indonesian artist. Heel mooi is het, hè? This is one of the panels of the Golden Carriage, the Golden Coach. The panel is called the Tribute from the Colonies. So it's very colonial. I mean, the Golden Carriage was built at the end of the 19th century, so like 1889 or something, as a present to the new Queen Wilhelmina. And at that time, the idea was that colonialism was a very good thing and a very benign thing. So this figure, she symbolizes the Netherlands, and here we have these people. This is colonization of the West. So here we have like people bowing down and giving tribute, and this is the colonization from the East representing. But it's a very, very problematic panel. It's one of the reasons that the coach is not currently in use for public consumption. I mean, at the end of the Golden Coach exhibition at the Amsterdam Museum last year, the King, Willem-Alexander, decided it is not a good time to write the coach again. So we did make some progress with questioning. This is just what we also invite visitors to reflect, so you can leave your own, or you can browse through some literature.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Do you want to leave some? Do you want to sit here?